On October 12, 2000, bin Laden operatives attacked the USS Cole. The FBI, which investigated that attack, learned that a bin Laden follower, Khalid, was the principal planner of the Cole bombing, and that two other participants in the Cole conspiracy had delivered money to Khalid at the Malaysia meeting. Now, the FBI told the CIA about those facts. That information came from the FBI to the CIA. CIA went back, reviewed the facts that they had about the Malaysia meeting again. And as a result of that review, in January of 2001, the CIA determined that Khalid had actually been at the Malaysia meeting and that Midhar and Hazmi, then, they knew, you knew, had been involved with the planner of the Cole bombing. Actually been with the planner of the Cole bombing at the Malaysia meeting. CIA again failed to put either Hazmi or Midhar on the watch list or to notify the FBI that Hazmi was in the United States. And my question is, do you know who was responsible for that failure?
Sir, can I take you back on
Sure.
the facts for a moment? First of all, in terms of the identification of Khalid, actually it was the FBI who provided the information to us because we were in a joint meeting at the time at a third country because we were running a joint case with somebody who identified Khalid. And indeed, in January of 2001, the legal attaché from this third country writes messages to both our headquarters that after having been shown the surveillance photos of Kuala Lumpur, he made an identification of Khalid.
I think that's
so at that point, sir, both the CIA and the FBI know that Midhar was in Malaysia and that in this time period, and that Khalid was in Malaysia at this time period as well.
Now that's irrelevant to my point. What you did not notify the CIA of at that point.
No, the FBI.
Excuse me, but you did not notify, thank you, the FBI of at that point is that you knew that Hazmi was in the United States.
That's correct, sir.
That's January now of 2001, another failure.
Sir, there are three instances, as I note in my testimony, on three separate occasions.
I know. My question, do you know who was responsible to notify the FBI at that time?
I don't, but I will find out for you.
On January 4th, 2000, they set off for the airport. Fahad al-Quso thought that the driver was a relative of Nibras, possibly his uncle, Abu Saif, the leader of the al-Qaeda cell in Sana'a, Yemen, who, in October 2003, would be killed in a confrontation with the Yemeni authorities. The two divided the $36,000 between them, Fahad al-Quso putting $9,000 in one trouser pocket and $7,000 in the other. They flew to Bangkok via Abu Dhabi, and from there they planned to head to Singapore, having been told by their travel agent in Sana'a that they could purchase visas for Singapore in the airport in Bangkok. That turned out to be untrue, and after several attempts to negotiate with Thai authorities in their limited English, they gave up. Stuck in Bangkok, they negotiated a 30-day stay and checked into the Washington hostel. From there, they called Abu Saif in Sana'a and told him what had happened. They assumed that Khalid might have called him when they failed to show up in Singapore. They told Abu Saif they would wait in the hotel until they received further instructions. Al-Quso also phoned his family and gave them the same message in case Khalid contacted them. Khalid, however, also didn't know that a visa was needed in advance to enter Singapore, and he, too, was turned back at the Kuala Lumpur airport he was departing from. He called Nibras' uncle, who updated him on what had happened to al-Quso and Nibras. Khalid got in touch with Fahad al-Quso and Nibras at the Washington Hotel and told them to stay put. He would come to them. In passing, he mocked them for not getting visas, neglecting to mention that he had made the same mistake. Khalid arrived in Bangkok the next day. He embraced Quso and Nibras warmly and when they handed him over the $36,000, thanked them for their help, whereupon the two couriers purchased new tickets and returned to Yemen. The story left Bob McFadden and Ali Soufan puzzled. Why, in the midst of planning an attack as big as the bombing of the USS Sullivans, would al-Qaeda transfer $36,000 out of Yemen? Al-Quso's explanation that the money was for a new prosthesis for Khalid seemed highly unlikely. They usually didn't cost more than $2,000. We sent a lead to the FBI agent based in Bangkok, suggesting that he go to the Washington hotel to investigate. At the same time, we checked phone calls made between the hotel and Abu Saif, Nibras' uncle, and were able to determine which room in the hotel Al-Quso and Nibras had used. Next, we ran a reverse dump, which means checking incoming calls, on Fahad Al-Quso's Aden number, Abu Saif's Sana number, and the phone number of the Washington hotel room they had stayed in, and found that they were all in contact with a number in Kuala Lumpur. After further investigation, we determined that the Kuala Lumpur number was a payphone. This, we deduced, must have been where Khalid was contacting them from. What was Khalid doing in Malaysia? And was this payphone something al-Qaeda regularly used? We didn't know the answers. So we asked the CIA, the U.S. government entity responsible for gathering intelligence outside the country. At each step of our investigating the Yemen-Bangkok Malaysian connection, every time we gained an important lead or had new questions, we sent the CIA an official request through the director of the FBI, asking if they had information. It is standard procedure for any official request from the FBI to the CIA, or vice versa, to go through the office of the director. This doesn't mean that the director personally signs off on it or sees it, but it means rather that it is an official, high-level request. It was in November 2000 that we asked the CIA whether they knew anything about Khalid being in Malaysia or about an al-Qaeda meeting there. The CIA responded, also through the official channels, that they didn't know anything about al-Qaeda gatherings in Malaysia, and suggested we ask the National Security Agency. The NSA didn't have the answers for us either. In April 2001, after al-Leghat's investigations turned up the payphone number in Kuala Lumpur that we had by then determined had probably been used by Khalid, we sent the CIA a second official request, called in the FBI a telephone, asking if they knew anything about the number. This request again went through the office of the director. However, no response came. Our third official request was sent in July 2001, when we learned some new details. Each new request was sent because we had new details or questions, not because we suspected the CIA hadn't responded truthfully to our previous inquiries. Again, we asked if they knew anything about Khalid and al-Qaeda being in Malaysia or about the phone number. Again, no information was passed along to us.